Next up, we're talking about Blood Slaves by author Marcus Redmond and his editor Leticia Gomez. Marcus Redmond is an actor, director, screenwriter, and author, known for his roles on Doogie Howser, MD, NYPD Blue, Murder One, Mad About You, Angel, and Fight Club. He wrote and starred alongside Whoopi Goldberg and Sharon Stone in the indie film If I Had Known I Was a Genius. He wrote, directed, and starred in the Amazon Prime thriller The Sixth Degree, and has multiple screenplays in development. He lives in Los Angeles, and Blood Slaves is his first novel. Leticia Gomez is the editorial director for Defina Books, an imprint of Kensington Publishing, which focuses on traditionally publishing high-quality fiction and nonfiction that centers on race, identity, and its impact on our experiences. Prior to joining the Kensington family, Leticia was a literary film and TV agent who specialized in bringing culturally diverse voices to the forefront.
Blood Slaves by Marcus Redmond is a riveting narrative that is truly distinctive and in a class of its own, that redefines history by creating a new origin story for the vampire, one that is rooted in justice. I have to say that I immediately fell in love with this riveting narrative. For this novel, for me, it was love at first sight. I couldn't help but think it was a fusion of an interview where the vampire meets Colson Whitehead's Underground Railroad. The writing is very cinematic and it has a fun revenge fantasy element to it. And now I'd like to introduce the author of Blood Slaves, the immensely talented and creative Marcus Redmond. And I'm going to ask Marcus to please share with us how the horrific and unnecessary death of George Floyd inspired him to write Blood Slaves.
Oh, yes. Well, obviously, just, everyone saw the footage and it was horrific. And everyone was really upset about it. And I was upset with everyone who was upset. Because it was 2020. We're in the middle of the pandemic. We're being told to stay home. And to me, the outrage wasn't about George Floyd. We had a sitting Black president and cops were killing Black people. So it didn't have anything to do with George, as far as I was concerned. It had to do with the fact that people were tired of Trump and they wanted to go outside. And so it was indicative of a broken system. And I was trying to figure out a vampire book at the time because, everybody loves vampires. And I told my wife about my frustration and she said, "It's too bad your vampires can't go back hunting. Fix everything." And we laughed. And the very next morning, Blood Slaves came.
Thank you for sharing that with us. So, Marcus, as you were writing Blood Slaves, what surprised you the most about yourself? What actually, during the writing process, poured out of your heart and mind?
It wasn't writing the book. It actually came out when I wrote the letter to the reader, but it was the effect that with how much racism had affected me as a person. Obviously, Black people are not a monolith, but in my experience, I spent so much time trying to rise above racism, to not let it affect me, to not be victimized about it. That I never really sort of took the time to realize how much it hurt me, how much it affected me. And in the writing of the book and then the letter, I had a very difficult time even reading that letter aloud without breaking down. And I don't think that would have happened if I had written the book.
Interesting. So what sort of research did you do? And is there anything that you learned that you wish could have made it into the book, but didn't?
So I'm very fortunate that I have a friend who has a PhD in slavery studies. So I just kind of went with all of the things I had heard about slavery. I wasn't trying to, rewrite slavery. I mean, it's atrocious. We all know this. So there were special sections I could go to her and she would be able to sort of guide me through. The thing that I thought was just really awful was the fact that there were enslaved women who would have their own children ripped away from them so that they could breastfeed and care for the master's children. And then the children could get attached to the enslaved. And then those children would be ripped away from her. And then her own children are just gone. And I mean, it's horrifically fascinating, and a completely different story, but it would have been very interesting to explore that and to just find a way into that because it's just it astounds me the savagery with which humanity can dream up when we decide to hate one another.
Exactly. Next. So I have to ask you, who's your favorite character in Blood Slaves and why? Mine is Gertie because she's trying, in the midst of all this, she's a woman in love, but she's trying to serve as a moral compass in all this. But who's your favorite and why, Marcus?
Well, I thought about this for a while. I think it's Rafazi.
Oh,
So Rafazi is the last Ramungan. And it's his blood that births this entire revolution. And he's had this power within him and finally finds purpose for it. Like, he finds something bigger and greater than himself in utilizing this power. And I think that strikes me as my favorite character because that's something that I hope the book can do. I hope that the book resonates with readers in such a way that it becomes more than just me. It becomes something that people are drawing, strength from while indulging in bloody.
well, readers are really going to have a lot to unpack with your novel. So can you tell us exactly what it is that you want them to feel and take away with them after they're finished reading Blood Slaves?
There's no power. It's in there. It belongs to you. It's always available for you. I mean, that's the metaphor of the book, right? The Ramungans, which are the vampires, that power is within them. It's been within. It's in their ancestry. It's a part of where they come from, and all of us have that power. We all have it. We can all access it. We can all use it to do what we need to do to help others, to help ourselves, to help people we love. So hopefully that's the takeaway, that there's personal power.
So a couple of quick questions before we wrap up. What are some of the characteristics, traits, and quirks of the traditional vampire that you don't like and you wanted to make sure that the vampires in Blood Slaves were different from them?
Uh, so I love vampires, right? But like, why are you hiding from humans? They're food. Like, I mean, like if I go to a barbecue, I don't hide from the grill. I'm going to eat the food on the grill. You get your vampire buddies together. You say, hey, we got plenty of food. Let's take over. That's what you do if you're a vampire. So we got to fix that.
Okay. Okay. And this is the last question. And what on earth made you decide to include Charlie, a vampire dog, in your novel? And what do you think his character brings to the story?
It's, it's okay. Charlie is a plantation overseer dog
Hmm.
who hunts slaves that run away, who becomes a Ramungan and joins the rebellion. It is a badass dog in a redemption story. Like, how do you not? I mean, game over. Actually, you know what? Charlie's my favorite character.
Okay. All right, Marcus. Well, thanks so much for being here. And I really did enjoy your answers, and I think the other panelists did as well. Thanks so much, Marcus. And
Thank you for having me.
back to you, Emily.
Thank you so much, guys. That was wonderful. I'm all about a dog with a redemption arc. I can't wait to read this book.